In what has come to be known as one of the most shocking and controversial animal welfare events in recent Canadian history, more than 300 ostriches were taken by a firing squad in a large-scale operation at Universal Ostrich Farms in Edgewood, British Columbia. The event took place late on a Thursday evening, following a months-long standoff between the farm's owners, international advocates, and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. The incident drew widespread attention, not only from within Canada, but also across the border in the United States, after several high-profile figures, including US Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and New York billionaire John Katzimatidis, personally intervened to plead for the birds to be spared. The story began several months earlier when an avian flu outbreak swept through the farm during the previous winter. The virus reportedly caused the loss of 69 ostriches from the flock, prompting the Canadian Food Inspection Agency to issue a federal order to cull all remaining birds to prevent further spread. The decision, however, was met with immediate opposition from the farm's management and from international figures who argued that the surviving ostriches were not only healthy, but could be invaluable to future research efforts on avian immunity. The Universal Ostrich Farm had long been recognized for its unique breeding program and its rare genetic lines of birds. According to a farm spokesperson, the remaining flock, approximately 330 ostriches, showed no signs of illness or viral infection. The team insisted that their birds could provide valuable genetic data to scientists studying how certain avian species develop resilience against the H5N1 strain. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is known for his interest in animal and environmental causes, joined with officials including National Institute of Health Director Jay Bhattacharya and FDA head Martin Makary in appealing to the Canadian authorities. They argued that the birds could live for up to 50 years and that preserving them would allow scientists to study immune longevity over time, potentially leading to major agricultural breakthroughs. In a formal letter sent on the 23rd of May, Kennedy emphasized the potential long-term value of the ostriches. He warned that the mass culling of entire flocks could erase critical genetic diversity that might otherwise help researchers understand resistance patterns in bird populations. Kennedy's letter underscored that indiscriminate destruction would remove opportunities to strengthen agricultural systems against future outbreaks, calling for a more measured and scientific approach. The Universal Ostrich Farm is owned and operated by Karen Esperson and Dave Belinsky, two individuals whose passion for their animals runs deep. During the Michaud Creek wildfire, when most residents were forced to flee their properties, they refused to abandon their flock of 500 ostriches. Their farm not only survived, but also became a refuge for countless other animals brought in by local residents who were evacuating. This act of courage and compassion brought them national attention, but what truly stunned the public came afterward: their work with ostrich antibodies. According to Esperson, ostriches have an unusually strong immune system, capable of responding to viral threats with incredible speed and precision. Working with a specialized laboratory in eastern Canada, the team inoculated their hens with a deactivated form of the virus. Within 2 weeks, the hens began producing powerful antibodies. 2 weeks later, these antibodies were naturally transferred into the ostrich eggs. Esperson described this as an entirely natural process, one that required no invasive procedures and relied solely on the bird's own immune response. When these antibodies were extracted and tested, the results were astonishing. The team discovered that they could block nearly 100% of viral particles when used in experimental face masks. The idea was simple, yet profound. By infusing masks with these antibodies, they could create a natural protective barrier far stronger than anything previously tested. Unfortunately, for reasons that remain unclear, the masks were never mass-produced. However, further testing suggested that ostrich antibodies might hold the key to completely neutralizing the virus itself. Esperson explained that the farm had dedicated every single laying hen to this project, seeing it not just as a scientific endeavor, but as a moral mission to help humanity. Ostriches are prolific egg producers, capable of laying an egg every 2 days for several months in a row. Each egg contains a significant amount of antibody-rich material, offering the potential to create vast quantities of immune compounds in a short period of time. What makes the story even more intriguing is the mystery surrounding why the discovery never reached large-scale application. Many have speculated that the potential of ostrich antibodies was underestimated or deliberately overlooked. Supporters of the farm believe that the idea of an inexpensive, naturally produced treatment may have conflicted with corporate or governmental interests. The bird's ability to generate immunity naturally, without synthetic modification, was viewed by some as a threat to established medical industries. This has led to a growing belief among researchers and the public that something larger may be at play. People find it strange that a discovery with such promising results has not been further developed or shared with the world. To many, it feels as though the ostrich farm's breakthrough was intentionally pushed aside, raising questions about the transparency of global health research. Beyond the speculation, what remains undeniable is the science itself. Ostriches possess an immune system unlike that of most other animals. They have evolved to survive harsh environments, diseases, and even injuries that would devastate other species. Their antibodies are small, powerful, and highly adaptable, making them capable of binding to and neutralizing threats at a microscopic level. These qualities make them invaluable, not only for medical research, but for understanding how nature itself creates protection through evolution and biology. Despite these appeals, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency maintained that its decision was grounded in precautionary policy. The agency stated that under Canadian law, containment and removal of potentially infected livestock is the fastest and most effective way to stop the spread of avian flu. The matter was brought before the Supreme Court of Canada, which ultimately upheld the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's order, rejecting all motions to delay the culling. Hours after the ruling, federal vehicles arrived at the property, signaling the end of months of uncertainty. Witnesses on site described a tense and emotional scene as the operation began around 6 o'clock in the evening. Canadian Food Inspection Agency teams, dressed in protective suits, entered the pens under the supervision of federal and local authorities. Farm supporters gathered outside the gates, holding signs, praying, and calling out to officials in hopes of halting the process. As dusk fell, the sound of distant gunfire began to echo across the property. Janice Tyndall, a 72-year-old farmer from Salmon Arm who had travelled to show support, recounted that she could hear the sounds intermittently for several hours before leaving, unable to bear the distressing atmosphere. She later returned near midnight, only to hear the firing continue. The long duration of the event led her to believe that the operation had resumed after a temporary pause. The mixture of heavy, muffled sounds and sharper, higher tones suggested the coordinated work of multiple teams. Police secured the perimeter of the area throughout the evening. According to official statements, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were present to ensure the safety of Canadian Food Inspection Agency agents, following weeks of threats and public outrage directed toward government staff. Officers temporarily paused the operation during a scheduled shift change to reassess safety conditions, but otherwise did not interfere. Staff Sergeant Chris Clark, who oversaw the police detail, confirmed that no injuries occurred during the event and that no arrests were made. He referred to the night as a dynamic and emotionally charged situation, but affirmed that all safety procedures were followed. By the following morning, the once thriving ostrich farm had been transformed into a silent and desolate space. Supporters and local residents stood in disbelief at the scale of what had occurred. For many, the tragedy went far beyond the loss of animals. To them, it represented a breakdown in communication between science, compassion, and government regulation. The question of whether the mass operation had been truly necessary began circulating among advocates, researchers, and animal rights organizations. In the days that followed, debate over the incident intensified online. Supporters of Kennedy and Katsimatidis accused the Canadian government of ignoring opportunities for research that could have benefited global efforts to manage avian-related illnesses. Others argued that the government was merely adhering to international biosecurity standards designed to protect agriculture. Still, the public outcry underscored how emotionally charged the event had become. Kennedy himself described the culling as a tragedy for both science and humanity. He maintained that ostriches, as a species with extraordinarily long lifespans and strong immune systems, could have provided unique biological insights if preserved. His statement also drew attention to the broader ethical question of whether emergency containment measures should always outweigh scientific inquiry. For the local community, the event was equally difficult. Universal Ostrich Farms had served as a symbol of agricultural innovation and pride in the region. Families had worked for years to raise and care for the flock, investing their livelihoods and emotions into the birds. Many residents saw the farm's closure as not only a personal loss, but a regional one, taking away jobs, tourism, and a sense of identity. In the broader scientific context, the event reopened an important conversation about how nations respond to animal health crises. It highlighted the tension between immediate containment strategies and long-term research objectives. While public health policy prioritizes swift and decisive containment to protect wider ecosystems,